This is the plaintiff, Lord S. Loridan. She says she hired the defendant to assist in the birth of her baby and to preserve and save her placenta. The woman botched the job. Her placenta wasn't saved, and she's here suing for a full refund of the $1,800 she paid the woman. This is the defendant, Nubia Jones. She says the plaintiff's birth progressed extremely quickly, and when she got to the hospital, she was denied entry because she didn't have a negative COVID test in hand. The plaintiff failed to communicate she needed to be tested. She assisted in her birth in many other ways and does not owe a refund. She is accused of being too late.
All parties, please raise your right hands. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Leon is presiding. Boy, that's a lot of stuff.
I know.
Try reading it.
I know. Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Ms. Loridan, you are suing Nubia Jones and Doula Viva Birth LLC, her company, for $1,800 that you paid her to be your doula during the birth of your first child, Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And things didn't exactly go according to schedule. Tell me what happened here, Ms. Loridan.
So from the beginning, I got pregnant during the pandemic. That was already strike one against me.
At least you had a fruitful pandemic, but go ahead.
2, over the age of 35, so I'm considered high risk.
Mm-hmm.
3, because I'm African American, it's known that, when it comes to maternity care, African American women or just minorities in general, the care that they receive isn't really the best. So the statistics show that when there is a doula present, they have the child has a better chance at survival.
What is a doula? Why don't you explain to everyone what a doula is, Ms. Jones?
A doula is a independent perinatal professional. And basically what we do is we support mothers and all birthing people at different stages of their motherhood. It's the beginning. Sometimes it starts before a mom is actually pregnant during the conception and fertility phase. And then there is the pregnancy, there's the birth, and there's also postpartum, which technically is 3 months after you birth a baby. But we know now from new research, it can continue to 1 year.
What qualifies a person to be a doula? Is there a certification or anything? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's not a requirement to be certified. Doulas are non-medical professionals. And although a lot of us are certified, it's not regulated on a higher level.
Okay, and when you say a lot of us are certified, who do you get certified by?
So there are different doula agencies that exist. I've been a certified doula with one major agency for about 9 years now.
Okay, so how many births have you assisted in?
Approximately 250.
Okay.
And I also have 5 of my own.
Okay. And how did you find out about her services, Ms. Loridan?
Google.
Okay. Now, so tell me, before you hired her, what stage of your pregnancy?
So October, so that is second trimester.
Okay. Your child was born when?
February.
Okay. And between October and February, what contact did you have with her and what services did she provide to you?
So this contact was all virtual. And the services that she provided me were YouTube videos and articles. And we had phone discussions.
Right. And so what did you discuss in the phone discussions?
So in the discussions, I asked based off the research that she sent me, I had questions. So I would ask things like, okay, well, the birthing plan, here's the birthing plan that I would like to have, or, can I do this? Or, what are your thoughts about that? At one point, I wanted to have the baby at a birthing center versus a hospital. So just discussing various things. One thing I would like to point out is that a lot of time during our conversations, I made mention to her Well, what is this supposed to, like, I'm a first time mom. I don't know what to expect. I've never walked this path. I don't really know what to ask or what to look for, guide me, show me.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And I felt like even in that stage, giving me YouTube articles, that's great, or YouTube videos or articles, I could, do those things myself, but it doesn't really help me unless I have somebody saying, okay, well, this is traditionally what happens. Or this
right.
Is what
but at any point in time, you don't strike me as someone who doesn't know how to pick up the phone and call the doula she paid $1,800 for. Were they ever unavailable for you? Because there's two people in your...
No.
Right. They were available for any question you had. Anytime you asked a question, they answered. They sent you a lot of materials. Yeah, it's virtual because that's, that's what happens when you get pregnant during COVID. It's going to be, a lot of this is going to be virtual. But let's talk about what happened. Did your labor occur as scheduled? Like, in other words, were you 9 months pregnant, or 10 really? Because that's the big lie that everyone tells us, that it's 9 months. It's actually 10. But
it's actually 10.
Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. So did the baby wasn't premature, correct?
No.
Okay. What'd you
actually
have?
overdue.
Overdue.
A girl.
Oh, I have 3 girls. And what'd you name your girl?
Oh, Heaven.
Heaven. Oh, all right. So now you are at your house and it's 8 a.m. and what's happening?
So it's funny. It started at 6 a.m. and I felt like I had to use the bathroom, but then all of a sudden the pain in my bladder was sharper, stronger. And I'm like, okay, I think this is it. But, based off of, what the doula was saying, oh, it's your first child, labor usually takes a while. So I'm like, okay, well, let me just, ride the wave. So I'm riding it, but then it's getting stronger and stronger. And then that's when I reached out to... You're supposed to time it, and... Yes, as best as I could.
Okay. Were you completely alone when this was happening, or did you have anybody with you? Okay. My husband. So your husband's able to, I know they're truly... Yes. My husband's watching, so I can't really say they're useless. No, but there's someone there to look at a stopwatch or watch a clock or do something to time the duration of the contraction as well as the length in between contractions. All right. So at some point you call the doula. When do you call the doula? After 2 hours?
At that point, to be honest with you, I don't know the exact math of it, because the reality of it is, just from my experience, they say, oh yeah, time the contractions. But when that wave of pain hits you, let me stop, press the button.
No, I'm not doing, I carried a human for 10 months. My husband can press the button. That's why I asked if you had anybody with you, because if it's not a husband, if it's not a boyfriend, if it's not a girlfriend, it's a friend. You got to know somebody in this world. And then when you go to the hospital, you want the doula, right? Because you paid $1,800. So you end up going to the hospital, however close to contractions were. At some point you decided, I'm going to the hospital. But you didn't go to the hospital at 8. You went to the hospital a little bit after that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So on my way to the hospital, I tell the doula that I'm going to go to the hospital. The contractions are close.
Right.
And then she's asking, okay, well, how close?
How close?
Okay, close.
Just
close.
Close. Too close for my comfort.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. So you get to the hospital, and what do they tell you?
I get to the hospital. Get this. I get to the hospital around 1, and they bring me into labor and delivery. And I'm like, but wait, slow down. I just started having contractions. I said, well, we're just going to check. Take it easy. The resident comes to check me, and she says, you're 8 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, I'm not ready. 8's too far. She was like, okay, 8 centimeters, this is it.
Yeah.
And I immediately text the doula and I said, all right, it's 8 centimeters. And she's like, okay, great. Woohoo, we're on our way.
Woohoo.
So at that point, the doula arrives, and I hand the phone to my husband at this point because I'm on the table and, they're starting to monitor me and prep me. So I give him the phone because the pain is the waves are strong. So I can't even talk. I can't text. So she tells him, okay, we're here. He's like, okay, great. We're here. We're in labor and delivery. So I don't know if she went inside or from the outside. I don't know, because I never saw her myself physically, neither did my husband. But she says that she wasn't able to come in because she did not have a COVID test. So
a negative COVID test was obtained within the last 14 days.
14 days.
That's what the hospital was requiring.
Yep.
Right.
And the doula was made aware during my pregnancy which hospital I would be delivering at. The doula was also made aware that a negative COVID test would have to be provided as well.
How was a doula? Wait, I want to ask you how you know the last thing you just said, that the doula was made.
We spoke this. I told her. We had the conversation.
Who did you speak to? Because there's two people I see involved in the text. There's Jewel and Nubia.
Yes. So Jewel.
And that's the person who went to the hospital.
Yes.
So let me talk to you, Ms. Jones. No one knows when she's going to go into labor and which of the two of you or Jewel would have to be there. So both of you would need to have a negative test. So why didn't you have a negative test?
Well, according to that scenario, we would have to be walking around with a negative COVID test, but we were never informed of this. And we go to births multiple times a month between New Jersey and New York. And we go to multiple hospitals, multiple birthing locations, and we never have to have a test walking in.
Okay.
Ever.
So let's assume for a moment that she didn't tell you. She testifies differently. She says she told the other person who works with you. But I want you to assume, for the purposes of our argument, that no one told you anything. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone knows that no one can have anybody go to the hospital with them. It's tragic, especially in the pediatric circumstances and especially in the obstetric circumstance. But it's tragic in every circumstance. So you know that it's a hospital setting. And I'm having a hard time understanding how any hospital is going to let you just walk in. You have the absolute right to be there. First of all, the hospitals have rules about how many people can be in the room now. She gets to pick one person to be in the room, and New Jersey law says you don't count as the one person, so she also gets to have you in the room. So what happened when you or Jewel contacted the hospital to find out what their rules were?
Well, we don't call all of the hospitals.
Well, maybe you should just call the hospitals where a person has paid you $1,800 and has told you that's the hospital I'm having my baby at. Maybe just those hospitals you need to call, because there were going to be rules, and it is not unreasonable for the hospital to say, we need to know that you that you're not going to give COVID to all of our nurses and a baby and our mother. We need to know. So frankly, I'm kind of surprised that this isn't something you guys would take upon yourselves.
Well, we're on call 24/7, and because we go to different hospitals and they can change their rules at any time, we walk around with our doula certifications, because that's what the hospitals have been asking for.
Darling, that just makes you a doula. It doesn't make you COVID-free. If this is a job you choose to do, then you should be getting tested every 15 days, basically, or every 14 days to be more accurate. Because if you have 100 clients, anybody could be in labor at not even. You would have to have thousands of clients for anybody to be in labor at any moment. If you had, how many clients do you have at any given time?
Approximately 4 every month, but it
4 every
changes.
month. That's fine. So 4 every month. That sounds reasonable. So 4 every month. So you know that this woman is due any second now. In fact, she's overdue. So that means there's 4 hospitals you got to call. And maybe some of them are having the baby at the same hospital. So, but you at most, you would have, stop talking over me, you would have to call 4 hospitals and find out what the rules are. I would be very surprised if every hospital didn't have the same darn rule. But let's just talk about this circumstance. You know where, it wasn't a big secret where she was having the baby. So, you know, you may be looking at me and saying, well, Judge, honestly, this was so weird that but why would it not be your job to find out what this hospital requires? It is your job. You're the doula.
I have another reason why, because in our circle, there's been a lot of discrepancies. Depending on who answers the phone will tell you the wrong thing. We've had doulas show up.
Oh, you just go online. You're right. Don't even call. It seems to me, Ms. Jones, that it is exactly your business to know what the hospital rules are. And when your employee got there, your employee was turned away saying, they said to her, where's your test? Why didn't, I guess, you know, there are places where, how long, I guess you had that baby really quickly after you got to the hospital. How long were you in the hospital, Ms. Loredan?
So I had her at 5:42 in the evening.
Yeah, that's 4 hours after you got there on your first baby. That is really fast. I'm sure you've learned since then. But you know, 4 hours is plenty of time to turn around, go get a negative test and come back. Why didn't is it your employee or your business partner?
She's an independent contractor.
Okay, so why didn't that independent contractor do that? Why didn't she halt, booty to the first place she could get a negative test, one of the spot tests, and then take it back there? She had 4 hours to do that. I could do that. Why couldn't she do that?
Yeah, we actually considered it, and we back each other up. So I also could have gone to get the test. But the last time we did go get COVID tests, because we do get them occasionally, we just don't have like a schedule. It took a long time for us to find a place that would allow us to walk in.
Maybe you should know that beforehand, because if you had picked up the phone and called the hospital, you would know what the hospital was requiring. And then you would research beforehand to know, look, under no circumstances can you keep $1,800 when you guys weren't there for the birth. You understand that, right? Particularly when the reason that you're not there for the birth is because you didn't have what the hospital required for you to be there for the birth. So you argued to me, you wanted to say something and I stopped you from talking. And so you wanted to argue to me why it is that you shouldn't have to return any money. Go ahead.
So number one, we never know how long a mom is going to be in labor. We never know. So because of our experience in finding a location in the moment, it's not about, I know where the locations are. It's just that you can't always walk into them. And if you walk in, there's usually a long line. At this time, we were still dealing with this. So we can't guarantee that we'll be back by a certain time. And so our offer in that moment to her was, since you're about to have your baby, let's say we did go get a COVID test. Maybe we would have gotten back in time to give her 2 hours of support. What I was saying to her, since she did such an amazing job and her birth was going so beautiful and she was almost done with this, that we could in exchange give her more support.
That's very nice. Be 12 hours. I am having a baby in 4 hours. I paid somebody $1,800 to help me have my baby. And you're going to tell me, I don't think it's worth us trying to find a negative test and being there with you at the precise moment that you're birthing. Yeah, what? We'll throw in some extras later. Then you offer her $500 of a discount and you say that's not enough. And what do you think is enough, Ms. Loredin? What do you think is appropriate?
All things being fair, they did provide service in the beginning. They were available for phone conversations. I guess that may be worth $200-300.
I am going to order you to return $1,200 of the $1,800 to Ms. Loredin. Verdict for the plaintiff, $1,200.
Thank you.
So the plaintiff is going to get $1,200 back. She was asking for $1,800, all of the money, but she doesn't get that. Ms. Jones, the defendant, let me ask you, the judge really thinks you're at fault because you didn't get that COVID test. Do you understand that? I
understand, but that particular hospital definitely has barriers in place to keep mothers from having the extra support that they desire. Other hospitals do not have that policy in place. And so it's really unfortunate that Ms. Lourdes was a victim of that.
You're going to have to give some money back. You okay with that? You understand that? That's the rule, right?
Yes, I respect Judge Leon's decision.
All right. Let's talk to Ms. Loredin now, the plaintiff in this case. Ma'am, you're going to get some money back. You don't get it all. Number one, how do you feel about that? You okay with that?
The verdict, I'm happy for it. I wish that I had the doula support because there were things that I wanted that didn't take place, but it's okay. I gave birth to a healthy baby, so all's well.
One of the things I understand you wanted was to have the placenta saved. It didn't come up a lot in the case, but that was one thing you were really upset about. Why did you want that?
Because what I wanted to do is to take it and plant a tree on top of it to grow with my daughter as she grows. But that experience, we're just never going to have.
All right. So. Okay. Thank you so much. Good luck to you.
So, Doug, this is going to be our reality for a while. When you need to be tested to perform a service, to enter a facility to perform a service, if you don't do it properly, that can put you on the hook for legal liability. So this is a new world for us, but COVID testing can be part of a contract. And if you don't meet the requirements, you could end up on the wrong end of a lawsuit.
The question is, can I be sued if my husband has a DWI accident? Everything is in my name.
Now, I'm presuming when this person asked that question, she's referring to the car
Right.
that was used in the DWI accident.
There's a marriage, obviously. She's calling him her husband, so there's joint property.
Right. Her real problem is that the car is in her name. If the car wasn't in her name, it wouldn't matter what else was.
Exactly.
Because in most every state, the rule is, if not in every state, the rule is that if you own the car, you also can get sued.
Right.
Like you are independently someone who can be sued, not just the driver, but the owner of the car can be sued.
Unless somebody stole your car.
Unless somebody stole your car, she's going to have a really hard time saying that.
Right, absolutely. I mean, this is a situation that illustrates why people get liability insurance on their cars. You got to have liability insurance to protect yourself, and if you have more money or more assets that could be exposed to a judgment, you need to get more insurance, and people end up getting higher insurance liability limits and umbrella policies and who knows what else to protect themselves in case something like this happens, because obviously car accidents can cause catastrophic injuries, and DWI, not a good thing.
Also, the cars in a household should just be under one name, unless there's a reason why. Like you don't trust the person. I mean, if you're married,
4 drivers in a household, each should have a car under their
should just have
own name.
one person's name. So there's only one person in your household who can be sued.
Right.